keep thinking we're always passing laws to help protect people from themselves. I'm thinking that we ought to mandate that every legislator has to wear a helmet if they're going to go take the steps. And that way it's easier to point us out anyway. We had one of the individuals on the House floor the other day that had a stroke, and another House member that has a reoccurrence of cancer, so he may not make it back the rest of this year. So it's just want you to know this, it's difficult this year, not just in Kansas, but across the United States. We see what's happened in Wisconsin. Their budget is over $3 billion short. That makes a mere $550 million look, you know, small. But in reality, it's still a big challenge. So bear with us and understand that in order to get where we need to be, everyone's going to have to experience some pain. And don't think for a minute that legislators are exempt from that, because we feel it. We know how it's affecting people's lives, and I don't feel like I helped to create this problem, but I do feel a responsibility to try to help to fix it. So I'm on Social Service Budget Committee. Every budget is difficult. We've had to cut the veterans, which I really hate. And on the bright side, I've also been working on a Vietnam veterans plate, and with the Department of Transportation, they've asked for input from some individuals who showed an interest, and we've had a couple meetings, and I think it's going to be a plate that the Vietnam veterans will be very proud of, and it's not going to cost them any extra money for that. Also, the Department of Veterans is going to try to fund the medallions, which are way long overdue for the Vietnam veterans. And I've made a commitment that if they can't come up with the $25,000 that it would cost to fund it, that we'll challenge legislators to do that. We need to have some good things come out of this. And I think that we all need to understand this is an opportunity for us to show that Kansas can come together. We inspired the nation with Greensburg and the response that we had. And I think that we can inspire the nation again by getting through this and setting a standard for other states to follow. I'll pass this along to our senator.
Thank you, Peggy. I would echo Don and Peggy's comments and thanking all of you for being here this morning, and thanking President Terry Manor for hosting it, League of Women Voters, and the Chamber for sponsoring it. It really is a great opportunity for us to get out and visit with each one of you and learn what's important to you. It's, no offense, Mark, but it's also nice to come back and talk to people who don't have a white badge on. We do get to see plenty of those people each week. I think I stood before you 3 weeks ago and said that things were really, really slow and we weren't doing much. It changed. This week has been extremely busy with turnaround approaching. All of our committees are trying to get all the bills worked we can possibly work. So I want to tell you a little bit about what went on in the Senate, particularly this week, because we worked a couple of pretty big pieces of legislation. Dawn mentioned the rescission bill. The House has done their version. We passed our version this week. Ours is significantly different in that we put in $25 million, $16.8 million in 11, and then carried some over into 12 for the maintenance of effort for special ed. That was the Senate Ways and Means recommendation, and we ultimately passed it 21-16. I voted in favor of it. I felt it was important to try to get 11 behind us, number one. Number two, I don't think there was really, the argument in the Senate wasn't whether we needed to fund maintenance of effort, but the argument was when. I took the approach that let's put 11 behind us so that we can really work on 12. And also, the concern that I really had with delaying that decision into April or early May is when you do that, you don't give the districts time to adjust. Their budget ends June 30th. If they've got to make major cuts, they've already spent 11/12 of their budget how are they going to make those cuts that late in the year? I guess I would argue with Dawn a little bit in that sometimes my votes don't count. This one evidently did, because this one earned me my very first trip to the principal's office. Got to have a little visit about being on the team and being a team player, and I kind of reminded them that maybe my obligation was to my district. And so we got through that, and I'll fully expect to be in the principal's office again, but that's okay. The other piece of major legislation that we passed was Senate Bill 77, which was a major reform in unemployment. I think I talked a little bit about this when we were here last time, but the unemployment fund in Kansas had been dwindled. We got into a borrowing position with the federal government, and we had no mechanism to pay that money back and or pay the interest. And so we passed out of the Senate and sent to the House a major unemployment bill. It was kind of gut-wrenching for me coming from my background, because it basically adds $260 million worth of additional tax to Kansas employers over the next 3 years, which is very, very difficult to do. But we really didn't have any option, because if we don't pay that money back, or we don't fund the mechanism to pay the interest back, then we lose all of our federal credits on unemployment, which in turn would end up being a larger increase than what we passed. So, difficult decision, but we did get that passed in the Senate, pretty wide margin, and sent it over to the House for their work. A couple of other issues that I've heard a lot about. First is the Arts Commission, ERO 39. Our federal and state committee will be working on that on this week. We'll hear testimony, and it's kind of reverse. If we don't act, then the ERO goes into effect. If we do act against the ERO, then that's saying that we oppose it. Emporia is a community that strongly supports the arts, and I will be in support of the arts in this community. But the difficulty in those decisions are when we start adding money back and we start taking care of those type of decisions, then we've got to find that money somewhere else, because at the end of the day, we're $495 million deficit now. I hope that number keeps coming down. But so when you start adding those monies back, you're probably going to end up taking money out of either education, social services, corrections, or one of those key core essential services that we deal with. K&I, Kansas Neurological Institute, Topeka, is another great example. I had the opportunity to tour that facility on Thursday. It's gut-wrenching. I can tell you the people that are in that facility really, really need help. And I don't know how, as I look at Emporia, I don't know how those people can come back to the community and receive the care that they need. So that will be another very difficult decision that we'll have before us, and probably either this week or next week. The item that I've received the most correspondence on is the proposal in the Senate on expanded liquor. There is a bill that would allow grocery stores and convenience stores to sell liquor. There's a lot of different components in the bill. Liquor stores would be allowed to sell more products than are currently offered. There's a license cap that would cap the number of liquor licenses by community on the spirit side only, and a waiting period that if someone wanted to come in and open up, or a grocery store wanted a liquor license and they wanted to sell spirits, then they would have to go buy an existing liquor license. And so a lot of different components to the bill. It's receiving a lot of discussion. I can tell you, I think I've heard from every single liquor store owner in the state of Kansas. I think I've heard from every convenience store and every grocery store in the state of Kansas. And I've heard from a lot of people that don't necessarily own a grocery store or a convenience store or a liquor store. This is something that everybody seems to have an opinion on. This is probably a rookie mistake, because you should never forecast what's going to happen, but we are working this bill on Tuesday. It is my belief that the bill has enough votes strategy is going to be to try to amend the bill in committee to get as much protection for the liquor stores as possible. The bill will then go to the Senate floor. I think the chances of passage on the Senate floor are 50-50 at best. And then it goes to the House, and I think it will really, really struggle in the House. I don't know whether Don and Peggy have feelings on that, but I think the only way that I can affect the legislation at this point is to try to get some amendments put on it that would protect the liquor stores more than what the current bill gives them. So that's going to be my strategy on that. Well-planned, well-laid plans sometimes work. Sometimes they don't. So I may look like a complete goat on Wednesday, but that's my plan at this point. I think it's important that maybe we hear from questions, so I'm going to open it up for questions, turn it back to Mark, and hopefully we can hear some of your concerns.
We can take questions now, so.
Okay, well, we're done.
There's a lot going on, I know. Anyone have a question? Yes.
And we hear lots about cuts and the things that are going to have to suffer. And I think somebody made the comment at the last meeting, if we were running our own household or our own business, which many of us do, or closely involved, you can't just keep cutting. You got to find out ways to make additional revenue. So we're not hearing it in the media much, at least I'm not. And I'm hoping that some discussions are going on somewhere about ways to generate additional revenue in the short term or the long term, and I'm just interested in seeing if any of those discussions are happening, if there's anything specific.
Tax increases are off the table, okay? That's just what it is. There's been a lot of discussion about the difficulty we're in, and we are indeed in a big amount of difficulty. There's been some discussion about how we found ourselves in this very difficult situation. And by the way, we did see it coming. The federal stimulus and the help that we received from that would end, and we knew that. It was abundantly clear a year ago right now. And that's why we've cut the budget to the substantial degree that we have, and that's why there was a tax increase a year ago. And you'll recall that the Kansas Chamber of Commerce and Industry was opposed to that tax increase, and now they're for it. Oh, by the way, Governor Brownback is grateful that the legislature addressed that reality a year ago, and we have some benefit of the additional revenue. The hope that we all have, certainly the governor has it, and I share that, is that we're now in a situation, partly by circumstance, and we need to help it all we can, that we grow out of this difficulty. And last month I made the prediction that January revenues would exceed estimates. I'm going to make a prediction today that February revenues will exceed estimates, and we'll know that on Monday. And that is growing our way out of the difficulty. That money counts, whether we're 5 million or 20 million or 15 million ahead of projections. That's money that we don't plan on today, and if we have it next Monday, we put that in the plus column. And that's very